a better course for our economy and our people. That is my commitment to South Africans. And that is what we aim to achieve when we table the new budget on the 21st of May 2025. The statement before you, which I hope it has been circulated, outlines the various technical processes we will undertake in the period leading to the 21st of May, and we're here to take any further questions you may have on this particular matter. When you table a money bill, Section 77 of the Constitution empowers me to do that. I was within my constitutional parameters to table a money bill. What then happened, because of the nature of the coalition politics, we couldn't find consensus, both in cabinet and in the legislature. I'm not going to put blame on anybody, but that process on its own, because all of us are new in this thing, was messy. That process on its own is messy. We all have learned from it. All of us have learned it because we might have gone to it not anticipating the kind of challenges we faced. Now, it would be unfair to say to me, having performed in terms of my constitutional obligations of proposing a money bill in Parliament and get into an environment of multi-party environment which created largely a tension, and then say, I must resign. At this stage where I sit, I think in that context, people must understand this thing in that context. By the way, on this question, let me conclude by saying that decision does not lie with me. It lies with the President. But I'm mindful of the fact that the President has been participating, he himself, in this process. He understands the nature of the challenges we've been experiencing in dealing with this problem. Are there any lessons learned? The first one is that we're in a coalition government. We've got to do things different. And therefore, a budget is an important political tool. It's going to be required, it's going to be important that we maximize kind of unity around a budget as a political tool. That's the lesson, which means we'll try and find as early as possible to craft an agreement with a number of political parties. Yes, I said the VAT was occasions, but the requirement to find new spending priorities. Let me take a step back. In October, when we tabled the medium-term budget policy statement, we kind of signal what the budget is going to be in February, and give concrete meaning to that by giving allocations to department in December, which is called the baseline allocations. So that kind of budget is intact with the departments. They've got their baseline allocations. DG's committee of technical, which include the DG in the president's, by the way, that committee assesses submission by departments. It's a technical committee, no political agendas, nothing. What they then say, okay, you've got your baseline, fine, but here are the other priorities that are emerging from the discussions with departments. Huge amount. They said over the MTF, those priorities amount to about 112 billion rand. So what we're trying to attend with the VAT is to how do we make sure that we can attend to these priorities in education, health, and so on, particularly this issue of doctors, unemployed doctors. Health alone, we made the point that they've lost about 9,000 workers in the last financial year, and there's no money to replace that. Health alone have accumulated accruals. In other words, they've not been paying people over the past few years on goods and services. Surely then we need to kind of bring that kind of thing to an end. And those are actually health centers that support the poor people of this country. We on this table, that's our job, is to protect the institutional integrity of National Treasury and its credibility. And that credibility is judged by its ability to craft a budget which, among other things, meet the developmental objectives of our people, but at the same time meet its fiscal objectives. So fiscal consolidation is still in place. It's still in place. We've got to kind of have a conversation as a nation. Have a conversation as a nation. Should we be paying the amount of money that we're paying on debt service costs? I made an indication earlier that now we've reached a stage where we're paying R1 billion per day on debt service costs. We're also borrowing 2 billion rand a day. 50% of what we're borrowing per day, it goes into debt service cost. That's a conversation we need to have as a nation, that all of that is beginning to crowd out investment in these developmental objectives. So that's the thing that we need to be talking about. Over time, if we're not dealing with this issue, we're going to the IMF cap in hand. That's not what we want. You know, Kristalina was telling us in the IMF, you're part of that meeting, did you? When she says there are about 20 countries that are queuing for balance of payment support from the IMF. Things are getting worse. We should not allow that in our lifetime. We should make sure that in our lifetime we can reduce the debt, so that we can reduce its impact on crowding out services. That's critical. And therefore, fiscal consolidation is an instrument to achieve that objective. Bye-bye. Thank you. Nice meeting you today.